The massive research vessel drifted silently through the vast emptiness of space, its sleek metallic hull reflecting pinpricks of distant starlight. Inside the observation deck, Captain June Park stood motionless, his dark eyes fixed on the blue-green planet slowly rotating below. Beside him, Lieutenant Hana Kim reviewed the preliminary planetary scans, her fingers dancing across holographic displays that flickered with streams of data. Earth looked unremarkable, another primitive world in a universe filled with countless, similar planets. The collective had seen thousands like this, developing species trapped in their own small technological bubbles, unaware of the larger galactic community that existed beyond their atmosphere. "Standard protocol scan complete," Hana announced, her voice clinical and detached. "Technological development, early industrial phase, no advanced space capabilities, minimal nuclear technology, primitive communication networks." June nodded, barely listening. He had seen countless such reports during his decades of planetary reconnaissance. These missions were routine, almost boring. Document the species, categorize their potential, and move on. The initial sensor sweeps revealed a species divided, multiple political structures, competing economic systems, seemingly endless conflicts, over land, resources, and ideological differences. Humans appeared chaotic, disorganized, and fundamentally limited in their understanding of the universe. Their planet showed signs of environmental stress. Large portions of landmass were transforming due to climate shifts. Their technological solutions seemed desperate and fragmented. The collective's initial assessment was clear. This was a species unlikely to survive its own technological adolescence, let alone become a meaningful galactic participant. What the scanners couldn't capture was something more subtle. Beneath, the surface of conflict and apparent weakness, something extraordinary was brewing. Deep inside research laboratories, universities, and technology centers across the planet, human minds were working. Not just working, they were dreaming, innovating, pushing boundaries that their own species didn't yet understand. A young researcher in California was developing quantum communication protocols that would revolutionize information transfer. An engineer in South Korea was designing adaptive neural networks that could learn and respond faster than any existing system. A mathematician in India was solving computational problems that would make current encryption technologies obsolete. These weren't just isolated incidents. They were symptoms of a species with an impossible capacity for adaptation, creativity, and rapid technological progression. The collective's sensors recorded data, mathematical equations, technological specifications, but they missed the most crucial element: human potential. June watched the planet, feeling something he rarely experienced during these missions, a strange sense of curiosity. Something about this world felt different. The data suggested simplicity, but his instincts suggested complexity. "Prepare standard first contact protocols," he instructed Hana. "We'll send initial communication packages. Standard non-interference guidelines." Hana looked up, surprise flickering across her professional demeanor. First contact was rare. Most species were documented from a distance, categorized, and then essentially forgotten. Little did they know that the simple act of scanning would be noticed. Human detection systems, far more advanced than the collective's preliminary scan suggested, were already tracking the distant ship. Radar installations, satellite networks, and advanced listening posts were recording every minute detail. The humans were watching, and they were learning. On the research vessel, complex algorithms processed planetary data, biological diversity, technological infrastructure, population distribution, economic systems. Each data point was classified, tagged, and stored in massive, computational archives. What the collective didn't understand was that humans possess something truly unique, an unprecedented ability to transform challenge into opportunity. Where other species might see limitation, humans saw potential. Where others recognized barriers, humans saw puzzles waiting to be solved. The first transmission would be sent soon, a carefully constructed message designed to be non-threatening, informative, and deliberately vague. Standard galactic communication protocol. But protocols the collective would soon discover meant nothing to humanity. As the research vessel continued its silent observation, the planet below hummed with an energy that no scanning system could truly comprehend, an energy of potential, of possibility, of a species on the absolute precipice of something extraordinary. The first unusual signal arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning in a small research facility nestled in the mountains of Chile. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was reviewing routine radio telescope data when something caught her eye. A pattern. Not random noise, but something deliberate. At first, she thought it was a technical glitch. Complex mathematical sequences danced across her computer screen, prime numbers interwoven with what seemed like deliberate computational puzzles. Each sequence was too precise to be natural, yet too complex to be human-made. Thousands of miles away in a top-secret military communications center, similar anomalies began appearing, signal patterns that didn't match any known communication protocol. They weren't just signals, they were almost like challenges. Dr. Park, a senior communications specialist, studied the intercepted data with growing fascination. The signals seemed to be testing something, probing the edges of human communication technologies. Each transmission was slightly different, adapting, learning. "It's like the signals are alive," he muttered to his research team. The collective's monitoring ship continued its distant observation, completely unaware that humans were not only detecting their presence, but actively analyzing every microscopic detail of their technological emissions. In university research labs, teams of mathematicians, computer scientists, and communication experts began collaborating. What seemed random to some revealed intricate patterns to others. Young researchers worked around the clock, treating these signals like the most exciting puzzle they'd ever encountered. A graduate student in Tokyo noticed something extraordinary. The signals contained embedded computational problems, complex algorithms that seemed designed to test problem-solving capabilities. Each sequence was a potential key to understanding something larger. Global communication networks started picking up these strange transmissions. Intelligence agencies from multiple countries began sharing data, recognizing that this was something unprecedented. Not a threat exactly, but something that demanded collective human attention. The signals weren't aggressive. They were curious. Computer systems worldwide began processing the unusual data. Machine learning algorithms started decoding patterns, revealing layers of complexity that suggested an intelligence far beyond traditional understanding. What the collective didn't realize was that they were inadvertently providing humans with the most sophisticated technological challenge they had ever encountered. Each transmission was like a key, slowly unlocking potential that had remained dormant. In research facilities across continents, teams worked with increasing excitement. These weren't just signals, they were an invitation, a test, a challenge. The mathematical sequences contained more than just information. They contained potential. Junior researchers discovered that the signals contained embedded learning protocols, complex adaptive algorithms that seemed designed to evaluate technological readiness. It was as if an external intelligence was carefully measuring human computational capabilities. Global communication networks began transforming. Universities redirected research funding. Technology companies started developing new communication protocols. What had started as a mysterious signal was rapidly becoming a global collaborative effort. Governments, typically slow and bureaucratic, found themselves pushed aside by the sheer momentum of scientific curiosity. Researchers from different countries began sharing information with unprecedented speed and transparency. The signals continued, each transmission more complex than the last, each sequence a deeper invitation to understand something profound. What the collective saw as a simple planetary survey, humans perceived as first contact, not through traditional diplomatic channels, but through pure technological communication. The time the research vessel's crew realized something was different, humans had already begun decoding technologies that would fundamentally transform their understanding of communication, computation, and potential. The signals were a test, a challenge, an invitation, and humanity was about to show exactly what they were capable of understanding. The unexpected signals had arrived, and nothing would remain the same. The first military engagement happened quickly and unexpectedly. The collective's reconnaissance ships entered Earth's outer atmosphere, believing their technological superiority made them invincible. They were wrong. Humans had been preparing. Not with traditional weapons, but with something far more dangerous: adaptive intelligence. Satellite networks that once monitored weather and communication transformed instantly. Each satellite became a potential weapon, a computational node in a massive distributed defense system. Military computers that seemed ordinary, suddenly, revealed complex layers of strategic programming. The collective's first attack wave consisted of 15 advanced combat vessels. They expected minimal resistance. Instead, they encountered a nightmare of technological innovation. Missile defense systems didn't just intercept incoming threats. They predicted attack trajectories with impossible precision. Electromagnetic pulses didn't just disable systems. They learned from each interaction, developing increasingly sophisticated counter-strategies in milliseconds. Commander Tae Lee of the Human Defense Force watched the initial engagement with calm precision. His team wasn't fighting a traditional war. They were conducting a computational battle where every second counted. Drones that appeared simple transformed mid-flight. Communication networks became living, breathing combat intelligence. What looked like civilian infrastructure revealed itself as a complex adaptive defense mechanism. The collective's first shock came when their most advanced stealth technology became completely ineffective. Human detection systems didn't just see through their camouflage. They anticipated their movements before they happened. Each collective weapon was met with a counter-strategy developed in real time. Computational systems learned and adapted faster than any known technological framework. What should have been a simple planetary suppression became a fight for survival. Military bases around the world transformed. Universities became research centers. Technology companies redirected entire engineering teams toward defensive innovations. The entire planet seemed to be breathing as a single, unified computational organism. Advanced quantum computing networks, previously used for scientific research, became warfare platforms. Machine learning algorithms developed strategies that human commanders couldn't have imagined. The definition of warfare was changing by the minute. The collective's military strategists watched in growing horror. Their technological superiority meant nothing against an enemy that could learn and adapt faster than any known species in the galaxy. Civilian infrastructure became part of the defense network. Power grids transformed into communication platforms. Transportation systems became potential weapon deployment mechanisms. Every piece of technology was suddenly weaponized. Artificial intelligence systems that seemed ordinary revealed extraordinary capabilities. They didn't just process information. They predicted, analyzed, and responded with a speed that defied conventional understanding. Space-based defense systems, previously considered theoretical, became operational within hours. Satellites repositioned themselves. Communication networks created defensive mesh systems that could absorb and redirect energy-based attacks. The human response wasn't just technological, it was psychological. Every attack was met with a level of creativity that the collective couldn't comprehend. Traditional military doctrine meant nothing in this new form of warfare. Quantum communication networks allowed instantaneous sharing of strategic information. What would have taken months of military planning now happened in seconds. The entire planet was learning and responding as a single unified intelligence. The collective's military commanders realized too late that they weren't fighting a planet. They were fighting a living, breathing computational system that could think, adapt, and respond faster than any known technological framework. Each engagement revealed new layers of human potential. What appeared to be a simple defensive action was actually a complex, multi-layered strategic response that transformed the very nature of conflict. By the time the collective understood what was happening, it was already too late. humanity had transformed warfare from a physical confrontation into a computational battle where traditional weapons meant nothing. The escalation had begun, and humanity was just getting started. The stars watched silently as a new form of conflict emerged, one where technology, intelligence, and human creativity would redefine the meaning of survival. The total confrontation began with something the collective never expected: complete global human unity. Every nation, every technological resource, every computational system became a single unified platform. Political differences vanished. Economic competitions disappeared. Humanity transformed into one massive adaptive defense mechanism. The collective's massive invasion fleet approached Earth, believing their technological superiority would guarantee immediate victory. Their first mistake was underestimating human adaptability. Satellite networks transformed into weapon platforms. Communication systems became advanced tracking mechanisms. What appeared to be civilian infrastructure revealed itself as a complex, living combat network. In the first 24 hours, the collective lost 60% of their initial invasion force. Not through traditional weapons, but through computational warfare that predicted and neutralized threats before they could materialize. Quantum computing systems developed by researchers in different countries suddenly interconnected. Each system learned from the other, creating a global defense intelligence that could process and respond to threats faster than any known technological framework. Military bases around the world weren't just preparing defenses. They were developing entirely new forms of technological warfare. Artificial intelligence systems analyzed collective technology, finding vulnerabilities in milliseconds. Drones that looked simple became adaptive combat units. They didn't just attack, they learned. Each engagement provided new data, new strategies, new methods of technological disruption. The collective's communication networks became compromised. Human hackers didn't just enter their systems, they transformed them. Entire fleet communication channels were redirected, confused, ultimately neutralized. Advanced energy weapons developed by human research teams could now adapt to different technological frequencies. What worked against one collective ship became instantly ineffective for the next, forcing constant recalculation. Space became a computational battlefield where traditional understanding of warfare disappeared. Each moment brought new innovations. Each second revealed another layer of human potential. Biological research centers developed adaptive medical technologies that could heal soldiers faster than the collective could damage them. Wounded fighters were returned to combat within hours, not weeks. The human response wasn't just defensive, it was transformative. Every collective attack was met with a strategy that rewrote the understanding of technological conflict. Massive research facilities that once competed now worked as a single unit. Universities became weapon development centers. Technology companies redirected entire engineering teams toward creating defensive innovations. Artificial intelligence systems analyze collective technological patterns, developing counter-strategies in real time. What would have taken months of traditional military planning now happened in seconds. Psychological warfare became as important as technological combat. Human communication networks spread strategic information faster than the collective could process. Every piece of information became a potential weapon. The collective's military commanders realized they weren't fighting a traditional enemy. They were confronting a living, breathing computational system that could think, adapt, and respond with impossible speed. Civilian infrastructure became part of the global defense network. Power grids transformed into communication platforms. Transportation systems became potential weapon deployment mechanisms. Space became a chessboard where humans played with rules the collective couldn't understand. Every technological assumption was challenged. Every military strategy was rewritten. Quantum communication allowed instantaneous strategic sharing. What traditional militaries would have taken months to plan now happened in moments. The entire planet moved as a single unified intelligence. By the time the collective understood what was happening, entire sections of their invasion fleet had been compromised. Their most advanced technologies became ineffective against human adaptability. Total confrontation wasn't just a war. It was a complete transformation of technological understanding. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was rewriting the rules of galactic conflict. The stars watched silently as a new chapter in universal history began. A chapter where a supposedly primitive species would reveal capabilities that would change everything forever. Where massive collective cities once stood, only smoking craters remained. Technological ruins stretched across multiple star systems, a testament to humanity's unexpected victory. The war hadn't just been won, it had been utterly transformed. Surviving, collective species watched in shocked silence as human recovery teams methodically began analyzing the technological remnants. What looked like destruction was actually the most comprehensive technological harvesting in galactic history. Dr. Park stood on the observation deck of the first human interstellar vessel, watching the devastated collective homeworld below. The planet that had once seemed unconquerable now looked like a broken machine, its advanced infrastructure reduced to computational rubble. Humanity hadn't just defeated the collective. They had reimagined warfare, technology, and survival. Research teams from every continent worked together, extracting technological secrets from the defeated civilization. Universities that once competed now shared information with unprecedented transparency. What the collective had seen as weakness, human diversity, had become their ultimate strength. The surviving collective leaders were given a choice: cooperation or complete isolation. Most chose cooperation, recognizing that resistance was futile against a species that could adapt faster than they could plan. Quantum communication networks developed during the conflict now became the standard for galactic information exchange. Technologies that seemed impossible became everyday tools. Human innovation had transformed from a potential into a universal constant. Military systems that were developed during the conflict were now being repurposed for exploration, medical, research, and technological development. The weapons of war became the tools of progress. Every technological artifact recovered from the collective became a learning opportunity. Research facilities around the world worked constantly, breaking down complex systems, understanding their fundamental principles, and then improving upon them. The psychological impact was profound. A species that had been considered primitive had not just survived. They had completely rewritten the understanding of technological potential. Surviving, collective species were integrated into human research programs. Some became partners, others became students. The hierarchy of galactic civilization had been completely dismantled. What surprised human researchers most was the depth of technological potential they discovered. The collective had been advanced, but they had become static. Humanity's true strength was its ability to constantly reimagine and reinvent. Global communication networks that were developed during the conflict became the new standard for interstellar communication. What once took months now happened in seconds. Distance became meaningless. The first human colonies began expanding into previously collective-controlled star systems, not as conquerors, but as explorers. Each new world was an opportunity. Each new civilization a potential partner. Military leaders who had guided humanity through the conflict now became diplomatic pioneers. The strategies that had won the war were now being used to build unprecedented cooperative frameworks. Artificial intelligence systems that had been crucial during the conflict now became tools for universal understanding. They didn't just process information, they helped different species communicate and understand each other. The human approach wasn't about domination, it was about potential. Every technological artifact, every captured system was an opportunity to learn, to grow, to understand. Surviving collective leaders understood something fundamental. Humanity wasn't just a species, it was a force of constant transformation. Single transmission echoed across the recovered communication networks, not a message of victory but a message of potential. We didn't start this conflict, but we've changed everything forever. The stars watched silently as a new chapter of galactic history began. a chapter where a supposedly primitive species had become the most dynamic force in the universe.